Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So it's a new day, and once again, it's another collab with Becky from the channel Bex Reads. I will always do the collabs that she asked me to join her for. They are so much fun for me, and I always come out of it with a ton of recommendations for myself. And I believe that last year I did this collab with her where we recommended witchy books, because I think that's one area where Becky and I's reading tastes are really aligned. We've buddy read a couple witchy books together. We are reading Slewfoot right now for her witchy book club that she has, and I am guest hosting in October. And the live discussion will actually be on my channel on October 26th, I believe, at 7 o'clock. I will confirm that and leave all that down below. I should actually post a link to that so you can be notified and have that all ready for you. So if you've read Slewfoot or joining us for Slewfoot, I will have that up soon. And there's some other wonderful booktubers collabing with us as well, and I'm just so excited for all the witchy book recommendations. I will take them anywhere I can get them, especially from you. So if you have any that you have been dying to recommend to me or you think that I might love, please leave them in the comments below. You always introduce me to new books, and I just love you all for it. And since I did this video last year, I am going to try not to recommend the same books that I recommended in that video. I read enough witchy books throughout the year that I don't need to do repeats. I've read some stellar ones over the last year, so we're gonna start with one that is a sequel to a book I recommended last year. So this was my little cheat. Last year I read In the Company of Witches by Orly Wallace. Loved it, highly recommended it to you, and I thought that I would get to the sequel right away. I bought it, but you know me, I just didn't get to it. But I finally read it at the end of September, and it was a perfect way to truly start this fall season, and this is When the Crow's Away. This is the second book in the An Evanfall Witches B&B mystery. It follows a woman who can see ghosts. She is a witch, and that is her power, and she helps them cross over. So what I really love about this series is that it circumvents some of the traditional tropes that you probably come to expect in cozy mysteries, which this is. And don't get me wrong, I love cozy mysteries. I love all those plot beats. I love the comfort of that. But this, it does do something different in that she's not finding dead bodies. She is finding ghosts who want her help. So in this case, it is the owner of like a chocolate factory or a candy shop, and he comes to her and says, I've been murdered. And she investigates his death. And they have a funny relationship because he has demands of her and she just wants to solve the case and help him cross over. And she's also grieving the loss of her husband. She's moved back in with her aunts who own this bed and breakfast. And the other thing that is interesting is most cozy mysteries that I have personally read, now I'm not as well-rounded with the genre, I am newer to it and I don't read it all the time, but from my experience they often have romances, or they usually do, and this one does not. And I think that makes a lot of sense because she's grieving the loss of her husband, and in this sequel her aunts are trying to set her up and she's resistant to that. I love the message of I don't need to have a partner to be happy. But I think in the third book, if we get the third book, I'll get more on that in a second, but I think in the third book she might be more open to meeting somebody new. We will see about that, if we even get that, because as soon as I finished this I thought, okay, when are we gonna get the third book? I haven't heard anything about the third book. And normally you get the books in a cozy mystery series pretty quickly. And on her Instagram she said that unfortunately Berkeley, who publishes these, had dropped the series because they are moving away from these mass market paperback mysteries, which is a shame. But then she posted and said, very vague publishing news, you know how that often happens, that there's potential that a different publisher is going to pick up this series and she can continue on with it, which is amazing because she ended this on a bit of a cliffhanger, and she said that she wouldn't have done that if she knew that the series is going to be dropped. So yeah, I just love these characters, love the aunts. Really, this is practical magic meets Sabrina meets Gilmore Girls, all the vibes you're looking for. So a great little series to try, and they're on the shorter side. There are a lot of witchy rom-coms out there that I could recommend to you and are favorites of mine. They are hit or miss, but I tend to love them because I know what to expect from them. But one that I read recently that I want to recommend because the sequel comes out in November is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. This is by Sarah Hawley. The sequel is A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, and I think that has the potential to be even better. But in this one we are following a witch who is terrible at magic, which is a trope that I like. The very beginning is hilarious. The shenanigans that happen because she's not very good at doing spells are just so much fun. She's more of a green witch, more of a nature witch. She's really good with plants. She talks to plants. And her mom is high up in this kind of witch society. And it looks down upon her magic, and she has been prophesized to be really powerful, so her mom really wants that to come true and in the way that she wants it to come true. So there is obviously a romance in here. She actually summons a demon when she's actually just trying to summon flour for her recipe, so he is in charge of taking souls for a deal, and he can't leave until that happens. She has no intention of that happening, so he has to stick around with her, and they fall in love. And while that is at the forefront of this story, I do think there's a lot of other plot points that really make this a page turner and intriguing. So it's about her finding her voice and sticking up for herself, coming into her magic, embracing what she can do. There's some social commentary in here as well, especially when it comes to the environment, given that she is a green witch, and how she saves the day kind of thing. So you get a few conflicts in here as well, but it's also silly, it's ridiculous, it's a good time. As I said, I think the sequel has the potential to be even better than this, but I thought that this was a fun time. If you're looking for something more historical, I highly recommend Wayward by Ailia Hart. I haven't gone through my list, but I have a feeling that this will be on my top 10 favorites of 2023. It was that good. It has stayed with me all these months later. And this is set in two timelines, 2019, 1619, and 1942. So obviously one timeline more present day than during the Salem witch trials and then during the war. So we follow these three witches who are all staying at this Wayward house, and they are not very aware of their powers and their magic and that they're witches, and we see how they develop their skills and protect themselves, because I think a main theme in this is about male violence, and I think it's important to know that content warning going in, especially when it comes from the more present timeline, because our character is really in it and she is in an abusive marriage and trying to escape, so that can be very heavy. And then obviously if you go back to the Salem witch trials, the way that women were treated back there is horrendous. And then we follow a younger girl, and she's in a situation where her mother has died and she's not being treated very well by her father, so they are all affected differently by men, and they all stay in this house, and we see how they are all connected, and I thought it was so beautifully done. I believe this is Ailia Hart's debut, and she's definitely an author I'm going to keep an eye on, because I just thought this was so harrowing but so beautiful. And historical fiction lovers, you got to try this one, but don't expect it to be overly witchy. I think that's the caveat I want to give for this one. Yes, they're witches, but it is more about their situations than it is about them conjuring up powers in the way you would think something like practical magic is. This one is more subtle. And then the last book I own is kind of just a fun one for me. This is something you could read to your kids or just read to yourself at night. I think it's a good one to pull out every October, and this is Hocus Pocus by Chris Grimley. That's who does the illustrations, and if you love Hocus Pocus the movie, you need this. This is just the movie, but in book form, and it's so beautifully done, and it just makes me so happy. Look at what it looks like underneath the dust jacket. I don't even think the camera catches how beautiful that is. And then throughout, we just have these amazing illustrations, and I love this. It is an experience, a must-have for all Hocus Pocus fans, which I truly am. It doesn't feel like Halloween season until I've watched Practical Magic and Hocus Pocus, and I have watched Practical Magic already this year. So I'm gonna read this and then finally watch Hocus Pocus. And I just want to say, I'm filming this on October 10th, and it snowed yesterday. That is Canada for you. I couldn't believe it. I was so mad. I feel like every year on my Instagram, I share something in my story about the first snowfall, because it always makes me angry. But yes, so we're getting snow already, but I'm trying to fully embrace the fall season still. I'm holding on to it as tight as I can. I just finished two witchy books that I cannot wait to recommend to you. They are both incredible, but this first one is maybe my favorite book of the year. It was an easy 5-star for me. It'll be my best books of the year list, 100%. I adored it. And that is the Witchwood Knot by Olivia Atwater, which you might not have heard of. It doesn't come out until I think the end of November, and you need to pre-order it. Actually, I went to pre-order it, and you can't pre-order the physical copy yet, but I will keep my eye out for it because I loved this book so much. It's one of Olivia Atwater's indie releases. So Olivia Atwater obviously wrote Half a Soul, which I loved. She wrote Small Miracles, which I also loved, and won Spitball last year. I just think she's incredible if you love cozy fantasy, but this is her best book that I've read so far. Now, don't get me wrong, I've only read 3 of her books, but I think this one's going to be hard to top. And it is set in the same world as Half a Soul. I've only read the first book, and I don't think that you need to have read the first series to appreciate this one. She uses different story methods to give you what you need to know, the background that you need to know to understand what's going on here. But I do think your experience is probably improved if you did read that first series. I did read the first one and I felt like I caught a little Easter eggs and I loved that. So I will go back and read that entire series and probably reread the Witchwood Knot at some point because it's just that brilliant and I loved it. So if you know anything about Half a Soul, that's a Regency romance, and this one is Victorian. And if you compare Victorian and Regency, there's something darker about the Victorian era. It leans more gothic, and that is what you get in this series 100%. We follow Winnie, who is a witch, and she's moving into this manor to become a governess for somebody that she knows and respects, her grandson. And Winnie is not a fan of kids, but she takes this on as a favor, and it also is helping her out for different reasons. And she quickly realizes that there are fae living in this house, haunting this house, and there are faces that come into the wall at night and really creepy things that happen, and nobody can really talk about what is going on. The staff never sticks around very long, things like that. The woman that she knows is living up in the attic and acting strangely, and things soon unravel. It's actually quite gory in some points. I love it. She has a familiar named Oliver, who is a dead cat. It's like a skull that she brings to life. It is so fun. I just love that. We get a lot of different personalities in here. A very, 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 very slow burn romance. Don't go into this expecting to get the level of romance you get in Half a Soul. That one was slow burn, but it was more obvious that was going to happen. And this one, it's so slow burn. I can't emphasize that enough, but it was sweet. And I don't think you really even need a romance to appreciate this book for everything that it does. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Gothic, atmospheric, sentient house. There's a moment that happens 10 pages in where the house bites her, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna love this, and I just did. Easy 5 stars, one I will return to, and it's the first book in a series, which is just exciting. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about it because I think I'm gonna talk about this book in every video from now on. So I don't apologize because it's just that good. I love it. You need to read it. I'll be talking about it in my October wrap up, my best books at the end of the year, my November new releases. I'm just gonna be talking about it nonstop. The book that I just actually finished this morning is Bad Witch Burning by Jessica Lewis, and I love this. I will be checking out the next book from Jessica Lewis. I think it's called Monstrous, because I just thought that this was really, really well done. The thing about this is I think you have to adjust your expectations. This is YA hard-hitting contemporary where our main character happens to be a witch who can raise the dead. And the fact that she can raise the dead is very important to the story. She's being paid thousands and thousands of dollars to do this, but it's all experimental, and she doesn't really know how this is happening or what's going to happen to these people that she's raising from the dead, but she's desperate for money because she is living with her mother, who has an abusive partner, and her mom just turns a blind eye to it. She's supporting the family. Her mom does not work, so she's desperate for money to pay rent and bills. There's a lot of conversations about abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, abandonment. I would compare this to The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson in that it tackles all those hard-hitting themes and very harrowing topics while also having this magical element in the backdrop. And there's something that happens in the first 10% that I feel like you need to know about, and it's hard to talk about because it's a huge spoiler, but it's a catalyst for everything that happens, and it turns out okay in the end, but I did cry. It involves the death of an animal. That is all I'm gonna say, but it's not, how do I say, but I know that that's something that turns a lot of people off. It turns me off, but the way that it plays out, I think you'll be okay with it. You just have to know that this is going to be tackling some difficult themes. It was a hard read in a lot of ways, and you're really rooting for our main character. Another point I want to make is that Cottrell doesn't end up in a romance in here. There is no romance in this book. It's really just about her survival and her finding out what actually is happening when she is raising these people from the dead and trying to solve all that stuff along with her best friend. It's definitely a difficult book to read, but worth it. So check the content warnings before you tackle that one. But I think it's worth looking into because it was so well handled. And I'd be curious to know if you know any more books that are similar to this or The Weight of Blood, where they're more YA hard-hitting contemporaries with a fantastical element, because I used to love YA hard-hitting contemporaries. How many times can I say that? But I've moved away from them in recent years. But if you add that fantastical twist to it, I'm more likely to try them. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. One that I read in September and really liked was After the Forest by Cal Woods, another debut. Debuts are just killing it this year. And this is a witchy story because it is a Hansel and Gretel retelling. And to even talk too much about the witchy elements of it kind of spoils it, because I think you have to experience this for yourself. It's super atmospheric. I loved it. And what's great about it is it's not a direct Hansel and Gretel retelling. It's taking the children from that story and what happened to them many years later, I think 15 or 20 years later, and how that has affected their relationships. But the main character is Greta, and she stole a spell book from the witch who kidnapped them when they were children, and she's using a gingerbread recipe from that book to survive, to sell to the people in the community. It's what's keeping her and her brother afloat, because the gingerbread recipe is just that good. But there might be something more sinister going on. I don't want to say more, but it's about her relationship with the other members of her community who question what she truly is or what really happened back in the day. Her brother kind of taking advantage of her as well. This is historical as well, so there are certain expectations put on women, and that is definitely a theme in this book. But then there are darker things happening in the woods surrounding them. And that's all you need to know. I thought it was so well handled. I will check out more from Kel Woods in the future. Haven't read many Hansel and Gretel retellings, but I thought that this was a fantastic one and pretty witchy, which I was not expecting. Two more. So the first one is a surprise for me, because you know that I read the Atlas 6 earlier in the year and really didn't like it. I didn't think I would go back and try more from Olivia Blake, because I just really didn't get along with the writing or the themes in the Atlas 6. I just struggled with it. But then Becky, who is the creator of this collab, has her witchy book club. And in August, the book that she chose was One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. And I thought, okay, it's now or never to give Olivia Blake another try. And I love this. I don't know what happened to me. So now I'm confused about my feelings about Olivia Blake, because I have to try a third one to see. But this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling with witches. So that is really what you need to know, because that's such a good pitch, right? And it feels almost like Jade City, but with witches, and it follows these two opposing families, obviously, and they both have these different drugs, but they're witch related. I can't really explain it to you, you just have to read it. And they both have different motivations and goals, and the children are obviously falling in love. So one family is all girls, one family is all boys, and there's some pairings there, and it's just really harrowing and beautiful. And I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, because you know how Romeo and Juliet ends. There are moments where this feels almost YA, because there's a relationship between the youngest girl and the youngest boy in these families, and we see their relationship unfold through text messages, and something about that felt a little YA for me, but it didn't bother me. I liked it. Her writing worked better for me in this case, maybe because it's like Shakespeare, it just kind of works, but I was just blown away. I was really surprised by this one. And we might as well end this video with a graphic novel. So I'm gonna recommend Over My Dead Body by Sweeney Boo. I gave this a high 3 stars. I didn't love the resolution in the end. It just felt kind of predictable and not what I really wanted from it. And there's obvious nods to Hogwarts in here that can be a little bit distracting, but it was fun. I love the illustrations. We are following a witch, and she's at a school for wizardry, and the great thing about this book is that every character has a familiar, and they're all different. So hers is like a Sphinx cat, who I loved and has a lot of attitude, but everybody has different animals, and I think that is great. I'm a sucker for an animal companion, so that's an easy way to win me over, especially in a graphic novel where you can see them. I just think that's sweet. And in this school, it's almost like sorority, where you have a big sister and a little sister. So she was a mentor to this other girl who goes missing. And the woods around this school are dangerous. You can't go into them. There's something lurking there. And she thinks that this is where her mentee has gone. And nobody in the staff seems too concerned that she is missing. So her and her friends take it upon themselves to find her. So there you have it. That's all you need to know about that one. Whew. There we have it. I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute in this video. That is just how passionate I am about witchy stories. So give me all your recommendations. Check out everybody else's videos. I can't wait to get all of their great recs, because we all read pretty differently, which is just something I love. Obviously, witchy books can be in a variety of genres, and I just love that about them. Anyways, thank you again for your support. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.